Good morning. My name is Carl Gershman. I'm the president of the NET. I'm going to welcome all of you to this meeting this morning, which is actually more than a meeting because we're going to be launching the Sahel Strategic Forum, which will be, I think, a very, very important new initiative about a region of the world that is increasingly on the minds of people concerned about Africa, about international security, because we all know that one of the consequences of the downfall of Gaddafi in Libya was the flooding of arms into the neighboring countries. This had a lot to do with the fall of the government and the fall of democracy in Mali before it came back. And there are problems of a security nature, of a humanitarian nature, problems of drugs and trafficking in this region of the world. And we know, I think, from what happened in Afghanistan in the 1990s, that when a large region of the world becomes a center for insecurity, becomes a center for some extremist elements, it can have problems which extend far beyond the region. So we at the NED, we're primarily a grant-making institution, I think, as people know. We have our institutes, NDI and IRI, the Solidarity Center, and the Center for International Private Enterprise, which work around the world. But the NED also has a convening power, and I want to thank our Africa staff, especially Kamisa Kamara, who have focused attention on this issue of the Sahel and have come up with the idea of partnering with Bridges and Vivian Derrick, who's an old friend of NED, part of the NED family, really, having worked for NDI many years ago, to work together to create this forum, which will provide a platform for the exchange of information, ideas about best practices, discussion of policy issues as well, among donors, among policy specialists, among practitioners, among people in the democracy community. We're delighted this morning to have with us the Foreign Minister of Niger, the Honorable Mohamed Bazoum. And we have a change in the program because Raymond Gilpin has been caught in Monrovia, has not been able to get back. And we're delighted that Professor Suleiman Niang of Howard University has moved from being the moderator to being one of our presenters today, and Vivian will moderate the discussion. I also want to thank Ambassador Maman Siddiqui of Niger and former Ambassador Keita of Mali for all the help that they've given in the creation of this forum. We hope as well that the forum is going to have will not just be a forum here in Washington, but we actually envisage this forum having a transatlantic dimension. And thinking about that, I was reminded that I used to work for Ambassador Jean Kirkpatrick, who was friends with a woman in Paris by the name of Anne Delattre, who had created in 1976 the Club du Sahel. And she spoke here in Washington in 1979. Jean brought her to Washington. She passed away in 2012, Anne Delattre, but the Club du Sahel is now today part of the OECD and is enlarged to become the Sahel and West Africa Club, SWAC. And we look forward to being in touch with them and possibly finding ways of having transatlantic cooperation in furthering our discussion about the critical issues that face this region, and I think that deserve more attention that they've gotten with all the many other problems in the world. But it's now my great pleasure to turn the floor over to Vivian, who will moderate the discussion this morning, and who I really, again, welcome to the NED.
very much, Carl. Good morning to everyone. Excellencies, well, you know, you didn't say good morning back. So let's begin with that. Good morning.
Good morning.
Excellencies, Minister Mohammed Bazoum, Carl Gershwin, President of the NED, distinguished Dias presenters, ladies and gentlemen. A very good morning to all of you because you were hardy, because you braved the cold and the parking and all the potholes in the streets to get here. So thank you for that. And I'm particularly honored at this partnership between the NED and the Bridges Institute. And I do thank you, Carl, for hosting the launch of this initiative that's going to focus on the Sahel. Now, Bridges was started 5 years ago on the premise that democracy and good governance can and will flourish in Africa if civil society assumes its rightful role. We believe that civil society groups across countries and continents can share strategies and bridge differences in resolving conflicts and moving towards stronger democracies. Bridges often works through what we call watches. These are temporary coalitions that look at democracies in crisis. We organize programs that include civil society, NGOs, academics, the private sector, and we work with host country governments and U.S. officials. And we're very clear in examining what civil society can do when it works with government and what it can reasonably contribute to avert crises and encourage dialogue. Now, Mali Watch was one such activity, and in it we were lucky to have Kamisa Kamara, who's a very talented program officer here at the NED, and I'm going to see her there in the back. You should know Kamisa Kamara. She participated in Mali Watch, but at the same time she was keeping her eye on the Sahel, as Carl said. And she suggested that we have a new effort that focused on the Sahel. So we at Bridges immediately saw the wisdom of her suggestion, and we jumped at the chance to collaborate with the premier democracy-focused organization in the United States. So we thank you really very much, Carl and Kamisa. So let me tell you a little bit about the underpinnings of the Sahel Strategy Forum before we turn to our two speakers. So as we began to tailor the Sahel Strategy Forum, the very often impressive progress that the sub-region is making on its own it became obvious to us and is encouraging. But nevertheless, the Sahel presents three clusters of challenges: security, long-term sustainable development, and strengthening democratic institutions. So if you envision the Sahel as a three-legged stool, and democracy is the seat of the stool, then the legs are security, development, and strong institutions. The security leg is wrapped in response to terrorist networks, jihadists, and independent militias who have no loyalty to any state and shifting ideological views. The threats may begin as local, but importantly, they spill over borders, like in Mali, and they become into virtually ungovernable territories, and so that the threat becomes regional, and that makes it much more difficult to address. So these threats start as local, and local communities can become quickly ensnared. And this stretches and compromises civil society. So the Sahel Strategy Forum will focus on local civil society because we believe that we have a stake in strengthening civil society as a critical part of a robust security response at the local level. And I'll say that again because we believe that local communities have a role to play in responding to threats at the local level. Now the second leg is sustainable development. And that's because you really cannot think about democracy, well, you could think about it, but it's difficult to reach democracy when poverty is overwhelming. Poverty is commonly cited as the major impediment to democratic governance. The Sahel region is home to some of the poorest countries in the world, according to the UNDP. In addition to dealing with core poverty, two other development issues stand out. The first is food insecurity, which remains a chronic concern throughout the Sahel. And it's hard to discuss democracy on an empty stomach. The second concern is demographic. Sahelian countries host some of the youngest populations in the world. Youth are key stakeholders in peace and security in the region, so we must focus on how these young people are trained and engaged, pulled into their communities. How can civil society promote education, health, agriculture, and economic development with an emphasis on youth and women? The third leg of the stool is rooted in democratic governance. The Sahel will flourish when its states have strong institutions that citizens support. That translates into free and fair elections independently held, independent legislatures and judiciaries, militaries with allegiance to the state and to the Constitution as opposed to individuals, and to an ethos of rule of law and transparency. So, those three legs, security, sustainable development, and strong institutions, really do constitute a fairly sobering agenda. But there is progress. Already there are active efforts by several countries in addressing each of these issues through schools, mass media, self-help programs, major agricultural initiatives, donor support, and local community development efforts. Our task here at the Sahel Strategy Forum is to determine our value added. The forum will allow us to gather stakeholders, track events, debate strategies, and offer, hopefully, reasoned recommendations that bring value added to the effort to advance peace, security, development, and democratic governance in the Sahel. We already know that we're off to a good start, given the commitment of the Sahel's key diplomats, who, thank you very much, gentlemen, for supporting this, and who are here, and the state and USAID, because we really are very grateful for all of this participation in the launch. In closing these remarks, we are really honored that we are launching the forum with His Excellency Mohamed Bazoum, Foreign Minister of the Republic of Niger, and the perspective of Suleiman Niang from Howard University. Niger is really at the center of the sub-region. It has been a consistently strong partner in sub-regional solutions and has taken important leadership roles by acting swiftly and demonstrating a commitment to peaceful resolution in disputes. A special thank you to Niger's outstanding ambassador to the United States, His Excellency Maman Sidikou, who has been one of our steering committee co-chairs, with His Excellency Cheikh Dieng, Ambassador of Senegal to the U.S. We thank you for being such a very strong partner and for facilitating this launch with Minister Bazoum. Ladies and gentlemen, I see a very bright future for the Sahel and the Sahel Strategy Forum. We are going to do our best in efforts to support that bright future. So I thank you very much for joining us, and we look forward to a really invigorating and provocative program. Thank you. Now, as Carl said, we have modified our program because Raymond Gilpin is unable to join us since he is in Monrovia. So it is my honor then, and I see now that the dean has come, and so I must welcome Ambassador Cyril Oglen from Benin, who was the dean of the ECOWAS ambassadors, and who has been very, very helpful in organizing this entire Sahel program. So thank you very much for coming. So it's now my pleasure to introduce His Excellency Mohamed Bazoum. He is the Senior He's Niger's Senior Minister of Foreign Affairs, Cooperation, African Integration, and Nigerians in the diaspora. So this is a very large portfolio. He has a distinguished career with 3 decades of concern in international affairs. He has been in government, in the private sector, so he brings the perspective of knowing some of the fundamentals of economic development, as well as the constructs for a strong democracy and the importance of dialogue and diplomacy among all parties concerned. His Excellency Minister Bazoum will speak in French, and we will have consecutive translation by Shari Ross. Mr. Minister, I welcome you to the podium.
Merci beaucoup, Madame. Mesdames, Messieurs, je voudrais commencer par remercier le président du National Endowment for Democracy, Madame la représentante du British Institute, Messieurs les ambassadeurs des pays du Sahel et l'ensemble des participants à cette rencontre que nous avons sur le Sahel une fois encore, malheureusement. Je vais commencer par dire que nous avons, en parlant du Sahel désormais, besoin de faire quelques préalables sémantiques.
Thank you very much. I'd like to first of all start by thanking the President of MED and Ms. Derrick from the Bridges Institute, the ambassadors who are here from the Sahel countries, and also all the participants who have come today to this event to discuss the Sahel. And before we get started, I think that we need to think about the fact that when we discuss the Sahel, we need to look at some of the semantics.
Jusqu'à présent, le Sahel désignait un ensemble de pays qui sont regroupés dans ce qu'on appelle le comité inter-État de lutte contre la sécheresse. Et cette notion de Sahel avait une connotation climatologique et une spécification géographique assez bien déterminée.
Up until now, when we talked about the Sahel, normally what we meant was a group of countries that were brought together in the Interstate Committee on Drought Control. So it had more of a climatic connotation and a very specific geographic connotation.
Aujourd'hui, le terme a une autre acception beaucoup plus large et ce sont des considérations en rapport de plus en plus avec la sécurité et le phénomène du trafic de drogue qui entre en ligne de compte pour donner son sens à la notion.
Now when we speak about this term, we think of it in broader terms, and it has various aspects that are related to security and drug trafficking, which is now coming to the forefront of the problems.
Et du coup, donc, nous sortons de l'espace tel qu'il avait jusqu'à présent été défini, et le Sahel, c'est tout ce vaste espace qui va de la côte de l'Atlantique, des deux Guinées, Guinée-Conakry, Guinée-Bissau, jusqu'à l'Égypte.
So now we move from the previously defined space to a much vaster, broader space that goes from the Atlantic, from Guinea-Bissau and Guinea-Conakry to Egypt.
Et dans le propos que je vais tenir pour introduire notre discussion, j'aurais tendance à privilégier les questions de sécurité plutôt que la problématique de la démocratie pour que je sois plus à l'aise dans mon exposé.
And in my remarks to introduce this topic, I'm going to highlight and focus more security aspects rather than talking about specific democracy issues, to be in an area that I'm much more comfortable with.
Sur la problématique de la démocratie, j'avoue que je ne dirai pas plus que n'a dit tout de suite dans son introduction Madame la représentante de British Institute.
because when it comes to democracy, I wouldn't have much more to add than what Ms. Derrick had already said in her introductory remarks.
Mais je serai à l'occasion de vos questions tout à fait disposé à réfléchir avec vous sur certaines questions dont personnellement j'ai une expérience pratique et sur lesquelles évidemment je suis à même de donner un éclairage conséquent.
However, during the question and answer session, I'd be more than happy to discuss this issue with you further, to give you some of my personal experience, practical terms in this area, and to clarify any questions you may have.
Jusqu'à une date récente, cet espace du Sahel et du Sahara, entre lesquels désormais il est difficile de tracer une ligne qui rende les données étanches, cet espace donc était caractérisé par son calme et la paix qui prévalait.
Up until recently, this broad area that we refer to as the Sahel-Sahara, which is somewhat difficult to delineate sometimes, has been an area that has been marked with, by calm and peace.
Le Sahara est un espace où il n'y a pas de mouvement et par conséquent, il n'y avait pas d'habitants, il n'y avait pas de risque, de danger, de violence, comme nous le voyons aujourd'hui.
The Sahara region has been an area where there hasn't been movement, there haven't been many inhabitants, so no dangers, no threats, and no violence, unlike what we're seeing today.
Mais depuis un certain nombre d'années sont apparus de nouveaux acteurs et ils sont le produit de l'apparition de nouveaux facteurs.
But in recent years, we have seen the appearance of new actors, and they are the product of new factors that are coming into play.
Les deux facteurs qui vont survenir, pour ainsi dire, et qui vont tout changer, c'est le facteur du trafic de la drogue et l'économie criminelle qu'il a générée dans un espace où il ne se passait rien jusqu'à présent.
These two factors that are coming into play and that are changing the entire landscape are, first of all, drug trafficking and the criminal economy that this brings about in this space where up until now there hasn't been a lot of movement.
Et l'autre facteur, c'est le phénomène de l'islamisme radical né dans le sillage des événements qui sont passés en Algérie au cours de la décennie 80 et un peu une partie de la décennie 90.
The second factor is the phenomenon of radical Islamicism, which has come out of the wake of events in Algeria that were mostly from the 1980s and somewhat into the 1990s.
Et ces deux phénomènes sont apparus de façon concomitante au Sahel.
These two phenomena appeared at the same time in the Sahel.
Même si, en vérité, lorsqu'on regarde les choses de près, le trafic de cigarettes d'abord, le trafic de la drogue ensuite, a fait le lit aux organisations terroristes qui ont compris que tout l'intérêt qu'elles peuvent tirer d'occuper cet espace et d'en faire une base, alors que jusqu'à il n'y avait pas longtemps, ce n'était pas concevable.
And so these phenomena seem to have appeared at the same time, even though in reality, if you look at it closely, cigarette trafficking and then drug trafficking, which sort of paved the way for these terrorist organizations to come about and to have the idea to set up camp and have a base in this area, which is something that wouldn't have been conceivable until recently.
Et j'ai l'habitude de dire que tout cela, le trafic qui passe par le Sahara, il a été rendu possible aussi par l'avènement de certaines technologies. Le Sahara était caractérisé par le fait qu'on n'y va pas parce qu'on s'y égare, on n'y va pas parce qu'on ne s'y réfère pas, mais avec l'invention du GPS, avec l'invention du téléphone satellitaire, avec le fait qu'on ait des véhicules qui n'ont plus de problèmes avec le sable, avec les montagnes, ces éléments de technologie ont fait de cet espace un espace par lequel les trafiquants de drogue ont compris qu'ils peuvent tirer un grand profit.
And I normally say that this trafficking in the Sahara came about or was made possible as a result of some of the modern technology. In the past, the Sahara was a place where you would never go because you would get lost. You wouldn't be able to find your way. However, with GPS, satellite telephones, and vehicles that can now cross the sand and the mountains, this has become a region where it has been made easy for traffickers to make a profit.
Et le système de défense des États était basé sur le postulat que dans le désert, il ne se passait rien.
And the various governments' defense systems was based on the theory that there was nothing happening in the desert.
Tout le dispositif sécuritaire et tout le dispositif de défense des États procédait de cette vérité.
And so all the government's security systems and defense mechanisms were based on this theory.
Lorsque vous prenez un pays comme le Niger, aujourd'hui encore, nous nous rendons compte que sur presque la moitié du territoire de notre pays, qui relève de la région d'Agadez et d'une partie des régions de Zender et de Diba, est couvert par un effectif militaire de moins de 1000 personnes. Et c'est plus de 500 000 km², c'est peut-être même plus de 600 000 km².
When you look at a country like Niger today, still approximately half of our territory, regions from Agadez, Sandan, Difa, are covered by about 1,000 soldiers. And this is for an area of zone that stretches from about 500,000 to 600,000 square kilometers.
Et le propre des pays qui sont aujourd'hui le plus affectés par ce phénomène du terrorisme et du trafic de drogue et les autres trafics connexes, leur propre, c'est d'être très vaste. C'est le Tchad, c'est déjà là-bas le Soudan, c'est le Niger, c'est le Mali, c'est la Mauritanie, c'est l'Algérie, c'est la Libye. Ils ont en commun cette caractéristique-là.
And you see that the countries that are most affected by terrorism, drug trafficking, and the other related types of trafficking have this common characteristic of vast countries: Chad, Sudan, Niger, Mali, Mauritania, Algeria, and Libya.
Tout le monde a été pris de court par le fait que cet espace-là, il peut être utilisé à des fins criminelles et sur un temps très long, sur un temps totalement indéterminé, dois-je dire.
And I think that everybody was caught off guard by the fact that this space, this region could be used for criminal activities, and this for an indefinite, over an indefinite amount of time.
Et pour ne rien arranger au Mali, il y a eu un pouvoir qui a eu une gouvernance qui a toléré la sanctuarisation des organisations terroristes qui se sont occupées d'organiser le trafic de drogue et d'entretenir la violence à l'échelle de tout cet espace.
And for example, in Mali, you had a government that tolerated or even sanctioned these terrorist organizations that got involved in drug trafficking and led to the widespread violence in the region.
Le fait que AQMI, c'est-à-dire Al-Qaïda au Maghreb islamique, ait été toléré dans le nord du Mali, a permis à cette organisation d'installer une grande infrastructure de son économie criminelle parce qu'en plus du trafic de la drogue et des autres trafics connexes, elle a pu développer l'industrie du rapt. Ils attrapent des Occidentaux dans les pays voisins que sont le Niger, l'Algérie, la Mauritanie, le retiennent au Mali et les vendent, ce qui leur a procuré des moyens financiers importants et qui ont compté dans le rapport de force avec les armées de ces pays.
And And the fact that Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb has been tolerated in northern Mali allowed Akim to develop not only a vast infrastructure of criminal economic activities such as trafficking and other types of trafficking, but also allowed them to develop a massive industry of kidnapping, where they had kidnapped Westerners and other citizens from neighboring countries like Mauritania and Niger, have held them for ransom or sold them. And this has led to enormous profit for them and has played a role in the balance of power between the armies of these countries.
Car une autre caractéristique de ces États, c'est d'être pauvres et d'avoir des armées fragiles, des armées très faibles. Du moins, c'est le cas de la Mauritanie, du Mali, du Niger, du Tchad, à certains égards, du Soudan aussi.
Because another common characteristic among these countries is that they are very poor and have very fragile, weak armies in terms of their resources. This is the case in Mali, Mauritania, Niger, Chad, and Sudan to a certain extent.
Et pendant 10 ans à peu près, AQMI, ayant été toléré dans le nord du Mali, a pu développer une infrastructure, comme je l'ai dit tout à l'heure, qui est devenue un facteur de violence très important et un facteur de menace vis-à-vis de l'ensemble des pays de cet espace et des plus vulnérables en particulier.
And so, since Akim has been tolerated in northern Mali for the past 10 years or so, and as I said, has been able to develop a massive infrastructure, this has become a factor in the violence and the threats that we are seeing vis-à-vis the other countries in the regions, and particularly the most vulnerable of these countries.
Tout à l'heure, j'avais parlé des facteurs nouveaux et d'acteurs nouveaux. Il y a aussi des acteurs et des facteurs permanents. Il y a un que je vais citer, c'est le phénomène Kadhafi en Libye.
Earlier I talked about new factors and new actors, but there are also some sort of ongoing factors and actors, and I will talk about one in particular, and that's the whole factor related to Gaddafi in Libya.
Le colonel Kadhafi a toujours armé des jeunes des communautés du nord de certains de nos pays, le Tchad, le Niger, le Mali, et a entretenu une situation de violence, de subversion plus ou moins latente, plus ou moins vive, sur de très longues années.
Colonel Gaddafi was always in the position of arming various groups, youth and communities in the northern parts of our countries, Chad, Niger, and Mali in particular. And this led to a situation of violence and, I would say, latent subversion that lasted for years.
Et cela a contribué à la circulation des armes, à la circulation de tous les facteurs de violence.
And this all contributed to the circulation of weapons and factors of violence.
Aujourd'hui, il nous faut repenser notre système de défense en tenant compte du fait que cet espace a totalement changé, il n'est plus le même.
Today we need to rethink our defense systems, taking into consideration the fact that the region has completely changed and is no longer the same.
Nous devons définir une coopération dans le domaine sécuritaire totalement nouvelle, à la hauteur de la menace et de sa réalité.
We need to define our cooperation based on this new security, based on the threats that we're seeing now in our region.
Nous devons également mettre en œuvre une gouvernance démocratique qui fasse droit aux aspirations identitaires des communautés, parce que c'est un espace de rencontre, cet espace-là, c'est un espace très ouvert, c'est ça sa caractéristique en Afrique, et c'est un espace de rencontre entre le nord et le sud de l'Afrique.
And we also need to implement democratic governance that takes into account various identity aspirations of the communities that live in this region, because it's a very open space, a very large space, and it's a meeting place between the north and south of Africa.
Nous devons mettre en œuvre une gouvernance qui prenne en compte l'existence du phénomène du pastoralisme, et de sa problématique, surtout dans le contexte du Sahel au sens original du terme, afin que d'abord les communautés entre elles, sédentaires et nomades, vivent en paix grâce à cette gouvernance, afin qu'également on réponde aux problèmes réels du pastoralisme à travers la délivrance des services indispensables pour que la vie soit tout simplement possible dans cet espace-là.
We also need to set up a system of governance that takes into account the phenomenon and the issues that are specific to herding communities and pastoralists, and this as they relate to the Sahel in the original sense of the term. They need to be able to have a system in place that will allow them to live in peace. We need to be able to respond to the real problems and issues that these pastoralist communities face so that essential services can be given to them and life can be made possible.
Nous devons, à travers toutes les nombreuses initiatives qui sont prises en direction du Sahel, aujourd'hui repenser l'aménagement du territoire dans ces zones-là. Construire plus de routes, des routes au sein des pays, mais des routes aussi entre les pays, promouvoir une école adaptée au contexte de pastoralisme et de ce cadre de vie hybride.
In all the various initiatives that are being taken now for the Sahel, we also need to rethink how this land is to be developed. We need to have construction of more roads, both roads within the states but also from state to state, and also taking into consideration this pastoralist context and hybrid life that it often leads to.
Nous avons, pour répéter un peu ce qu'a dit la représentante de Bridge Institute tout à l'heure, besoin de développer ce qu'on appelle de plus en plus les 3D, la démocratie, la défense et le développement.
And to reiterate what Ms. Derrick from Bridges was saying earlier, we need to focus on the 3 Ds, democracy, defense, and development.
Jusqu'à présent, la défense était, les questions de sécurité étaient considérées comme des questions qui n'avaient pas de lieu d'être parce que les armées étaient réputées absorber beaucoup d'argent inutilement. Maintenant, la donne a changé jusqu'à ce que nous ayons une maîtrise au moyen de notre défense de cet espace pour éloigner le danger. Nous avons besoin également, donc, par conséquent, d'investir dans la défense parce que c'est même le préalable à la paix et au développement.
Up until now, defense and security issues were thought of as not really playing much of a role because armies seemed to be absorbing a lot of resources and money, but the game has completely changed now. And until we can better master this space, we need, and the dangers that it represents, we need to invest more in defense because this is a prerequisite to security and to governance, democratic governance.
La démocratie, c'est la condition de la bonne gouvernance et de l'état de droit, à partir de quoi, évidemment, on peut gérer ces pays, surtout lorsqu'ils font face à ces défis que je viens de décrire, dont certains sont totalement inédits.
And democracy is an essential condition in order to have good governance and rule of law, which will allow these countries to better manage themselves and to respond to these crises, which in some cases are entirely new.
Voilà pourquoi il faut promouvoir l'émergence de sociétés civiles fortes, l'émergence de représentants des communautés authentiques, responsables, qui répondent de ces communautés et qui jouent un rôle même dans le secteur de la sécurité.
This is why it is crucial to promote a strong civil society, to promote community representatives from these various different communities that are authentic, responsive, so that they can all play a role in security.
Le développement, en plus des infrastructures qui sont nécessaires, passe évidemment par la promotion de l'éducation, ça passe par la promotion de l'école, qui est la condition à partir de laquelle, évidemment, la vie dans cet espace si rude et si difficile soit possible.
And development, of course, in addition to the necessary infrastructure, must also focus on promoting education and schooling, because this is an essential condition in order to make life somewhat more easy in these very difficult conditions.
Il faut également promouvoir des programmes de déradicalisation, comme on dit, de croyants. Il faut un travail de type idéologique à faire dans les mosquées, ce sont pour la plupart des pays islamiques ici, et cela aussi doit procéder de la gouvernance nouvelle qu'il faut concevoir et qu'il faut mettre en œuvre comme réponse appropriée à un contexte qui est totalement inédit.
We also need to promote more de-radicalization programs, as we call them. This is an ideological work that must be done within the mosques, most of these countries being Islamic. And this needs to be related to the new type of governance that we will be putting in place in order to find the most appropriate responses to this entirely new context.
Voilà, j'ai été très long, je vous remercie pour votre attention.
Thank you very much. I spoke at length.
Mr. Minister, we thank you so very, very much for this very thoughtful presentation, because you've taken us through the historical factors, you've reminded us about the importance and the centrality of pastoralists, and as we think about this, you've talked about the space, the vast spaces, and the different needs now in terms of defense. And so you've challenged us to reposition our thoughts on the issue, and particularly the last point that you made about radicalization, and I hope that we will be able to follow up on that in the discussion and the dialogue. So thank you very much. We will now turn to Professor Simanyan from Howard University. He is no stranger to anyone who follows African issues. For 32 years, he has taught and advocated for the continent. He's a professor of African Studies at Howard University. He particularly focuses on Islam, African politics, and African culture. And he is going to give us his perspective on the challenges now facing the Sahel. So please welcome Professor Simanyan from Howard University.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator, President of NED, people from Bridges, distinguished ambassadors, and most importantly, to me right now, next to me, the Minister from Nigeria. Within the next 15 minutes, I want you to be on my mental wall, and I will put you on the HOV lane, so you'll be traveling with me. Now just follow me. I am very happy to hear the Minister presenting to us government perspectives about what is going on right now in a very important part of Africa, the Sahel. And I'm very happy to know that Bridges and NED are working together to make this possible. So when you talk about the Sahel, the Minister brought you back to the political geography of Africa. When he talked about the Sahel, the acronym Sahel came out of a crisis in the 70s. Some of you are young. You don't remember that in the 70s there was drought. And it has serious consequences for the people in that area. And it went all the way up to Ethiopia and the collapse of Emperor Selassie. Many people forgot that. The effect of the climatic change in Africa led to all that. In the case of Mali, Modibo Keita collapsed because this was part of the development which was going on. Because the Cold War was going on. So when we talk about, as the moderator pointed out to you, there is the question of security, sustainable development, and the development of strong institutions. In her metaphor, she put it in the form of a stool. We need to understand the narrative. So if you are looking at security in Sahel, you have to go back to French colonialism. The British, the first word terrorism was first used by the French scholars. Terrorism Islamic, they were the first one to use that term. During the time of Fardab, when the French were working out of St. Louis to spread French civilization across Africa, going all the way to Djibouti, they only clashed with the English before that incident. That's why Sudan is very different from the other Francophone countries. Fort Lamy is part of the German French generals named after that place. So what I want to bring to your attention question, what about security today? If you're an American, security is very imperative now. Because what is going on in the Sahel is part of the larger American problem of terrorism since 9/11. The reason why Sahel is now becoming more and more important to Americans, Pentagon people who are interested in security, is because what is going on in Sahel in the eyes of some of these American people goes back to what happened in Kenya and Tanzania. That's how the American memory goes. So when you talk to the Sahel, Americans are now going to pay more attention to the Sahel. So if we are talking about security, we have to think about three major issues with regard to the Sahel. Number one, during the Cold War, Africans were caught between the East and the West, and Americans were involved in Africa in a limited way. Americans did not pay much attention to the democratic process for the Africans, because so long as African leaders were willing to support America, Americans didn't care about Mobutu Sese Seko and what he was doing. Even a guy like Idi Amin, so long as he was not communist, he was okay. But when he became too much a pain in the neck, he had to go. Now, the most important thing to understand here, when you about security in the Sahel, you go back to the political ecology of the Sahel. Political ecology. That's why the agriculturalists, the pastoralists are very important. If you look at the political anthropology of the Sahel, you can see that certain ethnic groups have been identified with the ecosystem. You have the Fulanis, they have been traveling all the way from Mauritania, Senegal, all the way to Nigeria. And that goes back to the political history, cultural history of that region. So, if you are talking about security and political ecology, what you have to pay close attention to, whether you are in the Pentagon, whether you are in the AID, or with any of the other agencies of the United States, you want to bring this thing together. These African people were very much affected by the drought. Many people lost their lifestyle, and many of them migrated south. And that affected the demography of that region. So when you talk about security, that is how Gaddafi came to the scene. When Modibo Keita collapsed in '68, as a result of what was happening, you had people like Gaddafi and Jafar Numeri making coup d'etat in '69. That changed the whole equation of the region. When Gaddafi became, he overthrew the ruling family, the Sanusi royal family, which has echoes in the Middle East. The Saudis were scared to death. Samuel Huntington wrote an article, many of us forgot about him. We see him as class of civilization. Samuel Huntington wrote an article in August 1969, and he said, modernizing autocracies are doomed. Saudi Arabia, Ethiopia, and Iran. All of them are gone, except the Saudis, they survived. In 1979, before the Iranian Revolution became powerful, the Saudi regime was almost toppled in Mecca, when you have a jihadist group who took over that time. Many people forget these stories. So when you talk about political ecology, political history, you have to go back and look at Gaddafi and his role. And many years ago, I wrote about Gaddafi and Islam. He was playing games at that time because he wanted to use Islam to help him, so he had Iran. That's why we have problems in Libya right now. And it was Gaddafi who helped those people who killed Saddam. Because those people from Benghazi were financed by Gaddafi to kill Saddam. We know that in the intelligence community. The problem that has to be borne in mind here is that if you look at Gaddafi, Gaddafi became a system challenger a la Nasser. Then later on he made move towards the Arab without success. And then he began to turn why we talk about cigarettes and drugs and drones and everything else is all part of the Gaddafi story. Because when Gaddafi came to power, he began to move south. And that was why Reagan would get involved with Gaddafi. Jimmy Carter handed to Reagan a narrative. When Jimmy Carter came, Gaddafi moved to Chad. And that was the implosion of Gaddafi into Chad. You know the story. It's not a distant story. It's not a dream, it's fact. So when he went to live to Chad, Reagan was very much caught up in a mess. And then there was this story that this came to be discredited. It was published in the English magazine that Gaddafi was the one. And if you're an American, let's get close to one. Sahel is very important for you Americans. Once before Obama came, most of you could not walk close to the White House because Reagan was told that Gaddafi was sending some hitmen to kill him. That was the narrative. That was they closed the White House here. When Reagan was the president of the United States, and that remained since Reagan until Obama came in. We closed that place. That goes back to Gaddafi. So if you are talking about security, Sahel is very important to you Americans. You better pay attention to the Sahel. Because these people had drought, which forced many of their people to move south. If you have any doubt about that, go to Senegal, go to Dakar. You see all these people who are from these ethnic groups that is creating problems out in Mali. They migrated south because they lost their livelihood. Many of them started moving. Most of the anthropologists are familiar with what I'm telling you now. And what I'm trying to tell you is if you talk security and you talk about political ecology of the area and you talk about development, this is where you have to pay attention to the political ecology of the Sahel. You move from Mauritania, Senegal, all the way down to Niger, and even go further up to Chad. That whole area is very critical. It's too big. If you're an American, you want to understand this thing. Imagine if you live in Vermont, all the way to Florida, and you move from New York all the way to Ohio, and you have that big area. You don't have these 495 and 81 and all the things. You don't have that. So this is one of the reasons why when the foreign minister was telling you that if you are from Niger, from the Sahel, you have this huge political estate, but you don't have the military to guard and protect it. If you're an American, you want to understand the problem of these people. Imagine the number of police cars you have as you drive from New York to California, and you will be surprised what you have. Now, they don't have that protection. They are very vulnerable. And then what makes it more complicating, if you are talking about development, and that's what you want to talk about development. You want development and good governance. You cannot have government and good governance unless you know the political ecology of the system. The politics of the belly and the politics of the head. The politics of the belly is for the people who need their ecosystem. They won't be able to eat. They must be able to have farming, and they must be able to develop their landscape so that they can have good farms. There are opportunities for people to invest there. So Americans can go and start doing farming if they have the cooperation of the government of those areas. And you will change that whole area from being a desert to being a fertile land, and you have the politics of the belly. People have food. Then if we're interested in establishing governments, we have good governance, we have democracy. When people are well fed, then they can be democratic. But if they're not very well fed, they don't like it to be democratic. This is where you have drugs coming in. Drugs and cigarettes became tools. When Gaddafi was there, many young people south of the Sahara migrated to Libya to get jobs. And that problem of the Sahel has consequences for people in Europe. The Europeans have to pay attention to what is going on there now. That's why you have this large number of Africans dying on the Atlantic trying to go to Europe. Senegalese, Malians, and Guineans, and maybe Nigerians, I'm not sure, you can educate me. They have been making videos and songs about Africans who are searching for a heaven in Europe by dying on the Atlantic. It's all linked to this. When you talk about Guinea-Bissau, this is another point, sensitive issue. I'm going to say it, it's dangerous, but I'm going to say it right now. The other thing is, when we talk about cigarettes and drugs, going to the Sahel, coming from North Africa like Algeria coming south, and you talk about these terrorist groups and their involvement, there is a Latino factor which is not talked about, but is there. The Latino, the intelligence in America, they know this. The Latinos factor is very critical because you see, because of drug trafficking and getting money, going to Europe and then coming to America or Europe, that is an other incentive. And that's one reason why the government in Guinea was, after Lansana passed away, it became very problematic. It revolved around this issue. Let me just make two more points. Two more points to say. One is, if you talk about security and development, security is very critical. The people from Nigeria by themselves cannot deal with this issue because they cannot handle the problem. They have to get Nigerian support. But if the Nigerians are careless, then the Boko Haram and all these other groups are going to create problems for them. Nigeria for 5 years. You see, Nigeria people are very much caught up in the same fix as the people from Mali. The Malians, they now deal with the Tuaregs. The Tuareg factor was complicated by Gaddafi because Gaddafi recruited many Tuaregs and many West Africans in the equivalent of the African opposition to the French Legion. When Gaddafi was in power, he created the mirror opposite of the French Legion. Some of you are familiar with the French Legion. It was very useful for France in dealing with this area. But the French had the technology. These African countries don't have already. So in conclusion, what I can say to you, if you are looking at security, development, and institution building in the Sahel and in the rest of Africa, with regard to security, the government in Niger, in concert with the other Sahelian countries, cannot do it by themselves if they don't have support. They don't have the technology. And unfortunately, that's a great irony. We made reference to that. With the GPS, the criminals can rule the region. They can navigate the desert. You see, but if with the technology now, and they can have all kinds of freebies given to them now. They can use the internet to have their telephone calls, unless the NSA boys are watching them. They can be doing their thing. The other thing that I want to make very clear to you is that when we look at the political ecology of the region, we have to pay close attention to the political history of the region and the political economy of the region. And that's one reason why the last point I will say to His Excellency, the Minister, when he gets back to his colleagues, insist that the Americans invest heavily in infrastructural development. Let them build roads. Then your soldiers can fight those people in faraway places. Otherwise, your development programs are not going to work. And once you do that, you have good roads. That's what made America strong. You can live from New York all the way to California by air, by train, by bus, by car. They cannot do that in that region. So for that reason, if you negotiate with Americans, tell them, we need security, you are going to invest in us in terms of security, build roads for us. And then we will have agriculture, and now people will be well fed, and then we will be in a position to bargain. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor. You have given Mr. Minister and other colleagues a true blueprint for what you would suggest that he does. But you begin, the point that you made about climate change and political ecology, I think is something that we would want to follow up on, and the relationship between drought and security. And also the history lesson that you gave us about the Sahel. And also what you told us about Colonel Gaddafi. The focus of this discussion, of this launch, is security and regional cooperation. And both of our distinguished speakers have spoken about that. Before we open to Q&A, I was wondering if, Mr. Minister, you wanted to make any comments or thoughts after what Professor Liang suggested to us. Okay. right, so again, the focus here is on security and regional cooperation. You will remember that Mr. Minister talked to us about the importance of security and its relationship to development and the tension between funding for the two. So I'm going to just open it now for Q&A. We have about 35 minutes. So I would appreciate it if you would wait for the mic and then give us your name, your affiliation, and make your question very brief. And it's not a statement. And I'm sorry, but I will not be terribly diplomatic. And if you ask a long, complicated statement, then I'm afraid that I will ask you to curtail your statement. So with that warning, if anybody's willing to ask a question, yes, sir. See Chris Bojack.
Thank you, Vivian. Colonel Retired Chris Olszak, Senior Fellow, Alliance for Peace Building. In the Mali Watch Group and Mali Moving Forward, Vivian, you know that one of the areas that we looked at was the criticality of the nexus of all the 3Ds, defense, development, and democracy, of the civil-military relationship. And the question I have, particularly for you, Mr. Foreign Minister, but also for you, Dr. Yang, is what advice would you be giving, particularly to the American government, the DOD and the State Department, as it looks to conduct security sector assistance programs? What advice would you give them on how we can help foster a strong civil-military relationship that affects all three of those areas?
Minister Bazoum, do you want us to take 2 questions or 3 questions at a time? Would that
Yes,
be
it
better?
is better, yeah,
Okay.
to have some questions and
All right.
the
Yes, sir.
response.
Merci, Seydou Bouda, ambassadeur du Burkina Faso. Je voudrais avant toute chose féliciter le ministre d'État pour son brillant exposé et lui poser juste une petite question. Alors, merci de nous actualiser l'état des lieux dans le Sahel. Nous savons que il y a eu une réunion récemment à Nouakchott qui a adopté, qui a pris une décision importante. Donc je voudrais savoir comment le financement de cette stratégie Sahel sera assuré et quels sont les secteurs prioritaires et quel mécanisme institutionnel a été mis en place pour gérer ce plan stratégique pour le Sahel. Merci.
Thank you. I'm the ambassador in Washington from Burkina Faso, and I'd like to congratulate the Minister of Foreign Affairs for this excellent presentation. I'd like to thank you for giving us an update of the situation in the Sahel, and I would like to ask a quick question. We talked about the importance of developing this area and looking at the initiative for the Sahel-Sahara. I'd like to ask about what the priorities are, what sectors are being prioritized, what funding mechanisms are being put into place, and what institutional mechanisms are being put into place to implement this initiative.
All right, and we'll take one more question. And I'm going to go to this lady in red.
Thank you. My name is Bess Palmachano. I'm the director of an organization called Rain for the Sahel and Sahara, working in northern Niger. I'm a follow-on to this other gentleman's question. Very concerned about the amount of community participation in developing security, and would like to hear more specific ways in which the communities will be involved. Because at this point, I think we have some serious issues in northern Niger to be confronted by the community. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we'll take this first round of questions. Okay, so the first question from Chris Holchek focused on civil-military relations and efforts to strengthen that, and what advice you would have, Mr. Minister, for the U.S. Department of Defense.
Merci beaucoup à l'ensemble de ceux qui ont intervenu. La première question, j'y répondrai en disant qu'en vérité, le problème n'est pas aussi aigu qu'on le penserait quant à la relation entre les civils et les militaires dans nos pays, au Mali de façon spécifique.
Thank you very much for everyone who asked a question. I would start by answering the first question and saying that in reality I think this issue is not it's not quite as serious as we would have thought in terms of the civilian-military relations, particularly in Niger.
Le coup d'État intervenu en mars 2012 au Mali était l'aboutissement du délitement de l'État. C'était vraiment le point d'orgue de sa déconfiture, tout simplement.
The coup d'etat in Mali in March of 2012 was the end result of the sort of disintegration of the state. It was the culminating point, if you will.
Les coups d'État militaires fantaisistes sont presque terminés en Afrique.
I would say that these fantasist military coup d'etats are practically nearing an end in Africa.
Cela dit, pour les régions qui ont été en proie à l'insécurité, les régions nord des pays du Sahel, évidemment, la gestion de ces espaces est assez souvent confiée aux militaires, du moins une grande prépondérance de la préoccupation sécuritaire dans la gestion des zones anciennement affectées par les rébellions.
And I would say that in these regions that have been in the throes of insecurity for some time, particularly the northern Sahel countries, the management of these zones has been a task that's been given to the armies for the most part in terms of managing the security concerns and managing these areas where there have been rebel attacks.
Quand je prends l'exemple du Niger où au cours des années 2007, 2008, 2009, nous avons eu droit, pour ainsi dire, à une rébellion Touareg.
To give you the case of Niger, in 2007, 2008, 2009, we had the Tuareg rebellion.
Aujourd'hui, nous ne sentons plus rien de la prégnance du rôle de l'armée dans cette zone, simplement parce que nous sommes en régime de démocratie, un régime civil, et les militaires ont une fonction de sécurité, parce que nous n'avons pas assez de policiers, nous n'avons pas assez de gendarmes, mais ils sont vraiment confinés dans leur rôle.
And today we don't really see the army playing a predominant role in this region because we are a democratic regime, a civilian regime. But the army does play, to a certain extent, plays a role in ensuring security because we don't have enough policemen and gendarmes, and so but they are limited in their task.
Au Mali, la question est assez différente parce que pour le moment, le nord du Mali reste une zone très dangereuse où l'armée joue un rôle important de pacification, est appelée à jouer ce rôle-là, du moins avec toutes les forces de la MINUSMA, et on aurait besoin ici d'avoir une approche qui mette les populations en confiance pour qu'elles aident l'armée à assumer sa mission.
The situation in Mali is an entirely different issue. For the time being in northern Mali, it is still a very dangerous region, and so the Army is playing a greater role in peace building along with the forces of the MINUSMA, the UN operation. And so we need an approach there that will help build the confidence of the population, civilian population, so that they can help the Army in this role.
Et il y a deux choses à faire par conséquent. D'abord, bien former l'armée malienne. L'Union européenne est en train de le faire. Le gouvernement des États-Unis doit aussi s'impliquer à assurer une formation professionnelle de l'armée pour que lorsque elle est sur le terrain et qu'elle est projetée, elle ait un comportement professionnel qui consiste à connaître sa cible et savoir entretenir la relation qu'il faut avec les populations.
So there are two things that need to be done here, and in Mali, for example, the Army needs good training. This is an effort that's currently being undertaken by the European Union. The United States needs to also get involved in this. They need to be provided with professional military training so that when they are deployed in the field, they understand professional conduct and they're able to know their target and to maintain positive civilian-military relations.
Il faut, deuxièmement, réconcilier les communautés du Nord entre elles et faire des programmes à travers justement le NDI, le Bridge Institute et tout, pour prendre les exemples des acteurs qui interviennent à partir de l'Amérique, promouvoir l'émergence d'une société civile dans le Nord qui aide à réaliser et à mettre en œuvre une gouvernance démocratique, citoyenne, dans laquelle les communautés auraient un rôle majeur à jouer, et cela va contribuer à la pacification également.
The second aspect is that we need to reconcile the communities in these northern regions, and we need to focus more on programs, such as programs that NED is offering and other U.S. actors, to promote the emergence of a civil society in the northern part of Mali that can help implement a democratic governance based on citizens and based on these communities playing a major role in peace building.
Voilà ce que je peux dire un peu en réponse à la première
That's what I would
question.
have in response to your question.
Monsieur l'ambassadeur de Burkina a posé une question relativement à l'initiative Sahel des Nations Unies, ce qu'on appelle la stratégie intégrée des Nations Unies au Sahel.
The ambassador from Burkina Faso posed a question about the UN, the United Nations strategy for the Sahel-Sahara, what we call the integrated regional strategy for Sahara-Sahel.
Et du reste, il n'y a pas que les Nations Unies qui ont conçu une stratégie en direction du Sahel. On en a une du côté de l'Union européenne.
And I would just say that the United Nations is not the only organization that has come up with a strategy for the Sahel. There's also a strategy that has been devised by the European Union.
Il y en a une plus ou moins sortie de l'EMB ici, du gouvernement américain.
There's also been an initiative coming out of the United States government.
Et bien des partenaires.
And also in conjunction with many other partners.
Il y a eu cette tournée dont on se souvient du secrétaire général de l'ONU dans 4 pays du Sahel, accompagné du président de la Banque mondiale, du président de la Banque africaine de développement, du commissaire au développement de l'Union européenne, etc.
And as you may recall, the United Nations Secretary General made a visit to 4 countries in the Sahel region, accompanied by the presidents of the World Bank and the African Development Bank, and also the EU Commissioner for Development.
Et du coup, les pays qui ont été identifiés par le secrétaire général comme ceux qui vont profiter de cette initiative se sont rencontrés il y a de cela 2 ou 3 semaines en Nouakchott.
And the countries that the Secretary General identified as being the primary beneficiaries of this initiative met recently 2 or 3 weeks ago in Namchuk.
Les financements, ils sont de 2 types d'après ce que nous pouvons comprendre aujourd'hui. Vous avez les financements qui entrent dans le cadre de la relation traditionnelle entre ces institutions, ces pays et les pays du Sahel d'une part.
As for funding, from what we've seen so far, there will be 2 types of funding. First of all, the traditional funding from the relationships between these institutions and the countries of the Sahel.
Et d'autre part, vous avez des fonds spéciaux additionnels aux interventions classiques des institutions et des pays. C'est du moins le cas de la Banque mondiale qui a annoncé 1,5 milliard de dollars à titre additionnel.
And in addition to these traditional types of funding interventions with these institutions, there will be some special funds. For example, the World Bank announced a 1.5 billion fund that will be added to this initiative.
Les secteurs qui sont concernés, ce sont les mêmes, le secteur de la gouvernance, le secteur de la résilience et le secteur de la sécurité.
And the priority sectors are the same that we've been discussing: governance, resilience, and security sector.
Les 5 pays se sont dit qu'il était bon que nous soyons en état de participer nous aussi dans la formulation des projets et la formulation des modalités de l'utilisation de ces fonds-là à temps pour que le temps ne passe pas sans qu'on ait conçu quoi que ce soit.
And the 5 countries involved have said that they would like to be in a position to participate in developing these programs and developing mechanisms to use the funds so that we don't come to a point where we've had a lot of time go by and nothing's been done.
D'après ce que moi je sais, il y a un secteur sur lequel tous les partenaires sont d'accord pour mettre l'accent, c'est le secteur du pastoralisme.
And as far as I know, all the countries have agreed on putting the priority on one sector in particular, and that is the sector of pastoralists.
Ça relève de la résilience, mais ça relève aussi de la gouvernance en même temps de mon point de vue.
And as far as I'm concerned, this is related to both resilience and governance.
Et ça va être perçu dans une perspective intégrée qui concerne tous les pays en même temps.
And this will be taken with an integrated approach that will involve all the countries concerned.
Vous avez également le secteur de routes. Il faut décloisonner ces espaces, il faut construire beaucoup de routes entre les différents pays. Ça va être quelque chose qui relève de la résilience, mais qui relève de la sécurité également.
Another important sector is that of roads. We need to be able to break up these spaces and build a lot of roads between these countries to connect the countries. And this is related to both the issue of resilience and security.
L'autre secteur, c'est celui des infrastructures énergétiques. Il faut délivrer l'énergie partout où on le peut, et il faut des financements spéciaux pour la promotion de l'énergie et le développement donc, de l'énergie dans les pays africains et du Sahel notamment.
The other sector is that of energy infrastructure. We need to develop energy wherever we can. We need to have special funds set aside to promote energy and developing the energy infrastructure in Africa, and particularly in the Sahel countries.
Un secrétariat a été conçu pour la mise en œuvre de cette stratégie, et ça va être un secrétariat composé de cadres des 5 pays, et il aura pour vocation de définir les projets, de les discuter avec les partenaires et de participer à leur mise en œuvre.
A secretariat has been set up for this initiative, and They will be involved in implementing the strategy, working with officials from the 5 countries. They will have as their task to define projects, to discuss these projects with partners, and to help implement the projects.
Enfin, la dernière question, c'est comment impliquer les communautés locales dans le développement du pays.
And coming to the last question, how to better involve local communities in developing the country.
C'est une question pour laquelle une réponse est plutôt difficile ici et maintenant, parce que c'est ça notre grand défi à nous tous.
And that's a question that is very difficult to answer in the here and now, because this is the major challenge we are all facing.
Moi, je prends notre expérience, nous, au Niger,
To give you my experience from Niger,
où nous avons peut-être plus de défis que même nos pays voisins,
where we face perhaps more challenges than some of our neighboring countries.
parce que nous sommes un pays où nous avons des communautés pastorales de l'Est et les communautés pastorales de l'Ouest.
Because in our country we have pastoral communities in both the east and the western parts of the country.
Et toute la difficulté pour les pays du Sahel dans cet espace-là, c'est comment rendre viable et intégrer par conséquent les communautés pastorales dans le développement du pays et assurer leur capacité de résilience.
And so the major difficulty that all countries of the Sahel are facing is how to make conditions more livable for these pastoral communities and how to integrate them into the country's development and make them more resilient.
Nous avons les mêmes communautés que le Mali, mais en plus, nous avons d'autres communautés que nous partageons uniquement avec le Tchad.
We have the same communities as Mali, but in addition we have other communities that we have in common with Chad.
Et nous sommes un pays où, pour autant, il n'y a pas de violence aujourd'hui, parce que nous avons mis en œuvre une gouvernance qui essaye de régler les conflits de façon pacifique.
And our country does not have violence per se today because we have put in place a government system that tries to resolve conflicts in a peaceful way.
Nous nous appuyons sur 4 acteurs pour aller très vite.
And to sum up quickly, we rely on 4 main actors.
Les acteurs qui ont été générés par la décentralisation,
Actors who came about or were a byproduct of decentralization.
les acteurs étatiques, et c'est très important, nous sommes un pays où l'État est vraiment présent partout.
State actors, and it's important to note that in our country, the state is very present everywhere throughout the country.
La chefferie traditionnelle
Also traditional leaders,
et les organisations pastorales qui sont des organisations de la société civile.
and pastoralist organizations, which are civil society organizations.
C'est la combinaison de l'intervention de ces 4 acteurs qui parvient à créer les conditions d'un consensus communien sur le temps.
And
Sur la durée.
it's the combined involvement of these 4 actors, or groups of actors, that have led to the conditions that have allowed us to maintain a consensus for a rather long period of time.
Voilà, merci madame.
Thank you.
I never heard a set of questions answered that specifically and with such content. Mr. Minister, that is absolutely something that we must applaud you for. Truly a tour de force. Thank you. I did have a couple of questions that emerged from what you said. Throughout your answers, you talked in part about radicalization. You had mentioned that in your opening statement, but particularly in terms of your response to the last question, I thought that that might be something that you might tell us a little bit more about. And how that fits within the four state actors that you just mentioned.
Nous, au Niger, nous faisons moins face peut-être que les autres pays au phénomène de la radicalisation islamiste.
In Niger, perhaps we face this issue of Islamic radicalization to a lesser degree than some of our neighboring countries.
Et en vérité, l'islamisme radical est un phénomène des villes. Les campagnes, à part malheureusement le Nigeria avec ce phénomène tout à fait incompréhensible de Boko Haram, les campagnes, elles sont plutôt épargnées.
And in reality, radical Islamization is more a phenomenon we see in cities, with the exception perhaps of the case in Nigeria with Boko Haram and this completely incomprehensible situation. But for the most part, the countryside is spared from this.
Nous avons un islam très modéré et une pratique de l'islam très homogène.
In our country, we have moderate Islam and very homogeneous Islamic practices.
Le groupe potentiellement, le groupe à potentiel de radicalisation, ils sont plutôt dans les villes.
And the groups that have a potential for radicalization are, for the most part, in the cities.
Et évidemment, ils sont traités par la police qui a l'œil sur eux dans le cadre de sa mission quotidienne.
And this is handled by the police who keep an eye on these groups in case of their day-to-day work.
Mais pour des pays comme la Mauritanie, à certains égards le Mali, il y a un besoin de déradicalisation à travers une formation des imams et de ceux qui sont chargés des prêches pour qu'ils soient des vecteurs de diffusion d'une parole conforme à l'esprit de l'islam et non ce que professent les terroristes, les intégristes.
But in countries like Mauritania and to a lesser extent Mali, there needs to be more de-radicalization through more education and training of the imams and the religious leaders, so that they can be vectors, if you will, or they can convey the words and the speech of true Islam, and not the words and the speech of fundamentalists and terrorists.
Et dans notre stratégie Sahel commune, il y aura un programme spécifiquement dédié à la formation des imams qui va avoir pour fonction d'endiguer le radicalisme à travers la promotion des valeurs de l'islam.
And in our joint strategy on the Sahel, we will have a specific program targeting training for imams so that they can help root out radicalization and help promote true Islamic values.
Et le ministère de l'Intérieur du Niger est en train de concevoir un programme dans ce sens qui va être versé dans le programme global que nous entendons désormais prendre en charge dans le cadre de cette démarche commune.
And currently, the Minister of the Interior in Niger is also developing a similar program that will also be deployed in the context of this regional integrated strategy.
Et nous avons, de ce point de vue, une coopération que nous avons entamée avec des pays qui ont cette expérience, à savoir la Mauritanie et le Maroc.
And we are cooperating with other countries who have already gone through this or similar experience, in particular Mauritania and Morocco.
Thank you. And this is such a good example, again, of regional cooperation in terms of using the experiences of other countries. I want to ask you one more thing, and that's about both Kuharam, but I'm going to save that and take a couple of questions and that before we have to close. And this gentleman right here has had his hand up for a long time.
Thank you very much. Let me, first of all, I'm from the Embassy of Algeria in Washington, D.C. Let me, first of all, thank warmly the National Endowment for Democracy for organizing this meeting on such a sensitive region, which is Sahel. I am personally very happy to have His Excellency the Minister of Major among us. I would like to ask you a question, but I will do it in French. Monsieur le ministre, vous avez dans votre exposé parlé des actions que les différents pays de la région doivent entreprendre dans l'urgence pour améliorer la situation dans cette région. Vous avez parlé des actions dans le domaine de la démocratie, de la sécurité, de la démocratie, ainsi que du développement. Vous avez également parlé des contributions des partenaires extra-régionaux. Vous avez parlé de l'Union européenne, vous avez parlé des États-Unis, vous avez également parlé de la Banque mondiale, mais j'étais un peu étonné de ne pas vous avoir entendu parler des actions auxquelles votre pays a joué et continue à jouer un rôle important, à savoir la conférence du pays du Champ, à laquelle vous avez participé vous-même, et j'étais présent plusieurs fois, et j'ai suivi vos interventions et votre contribution. Il y a également dans le domaine sécuritaire l'action entreprise au niveau du CEMOC. J'ai pas entendu le commentaire sur ça. Et dans le domaine du développement, il y a également une entreprise qui remonte à plusieurs années et qui est très très importante et dans laquelle votre pays est partie prenante, c'est la route transsaharienne. Alors, j'aimerais s'il vous plaît faire un peu de votre commentaire à ce sujet. Merci.
In your remarks, Minister, you talked about the various actions that need to be taken by the countries of the region in order to respond urgently to these crises and to improve the situation. You talked in particular about democracy, security, and development, and you talked about the contributions of external partners such as the EU, the US, and the World Bank. But I was surprised to hear that you did not focus much on the actions that your country has been involved in and played an important role in, such as the conferences that you've attended, the actions that have been undertaken on the security level, and development action in particular that has been an initiative for several years now that your country has played a role in, and that is the construction of the Trans-Saharan Highway. I wonder if you could say a few words about this.
Merci beaucoup, monsieur le représentant de l'ambassade d'Algérie. Vous avez raison, je vous remercie de me donner l'occasion de combler cette lacune de mon exposé. Et c'était ça précisément que j'avais promis qu'à l'occasion des discussions, on va enrichir mon exposé.
Thank you very much for your question, and you're entirely right for raising that and giving me the opportunity to fill in the gaps in my remarks. And as I said in my opening remarks, I would provide further clarifications through the Q&A.
Dans mon exposé, j'ai dit que les questions que nous pose le terrorisme et l'économie criminelle vont requérir de notre part que nous repensions notre système de sécurité et de défense et la façon dont nous devons occuper désormais les espaces.
As I said in my remarks, the issues of terrorism and the criminal economy require us to now rethink our security and defense systems and also rethink the way that we're going to occupy this space.
Une des réponses que nous avons apportées dans le cadre de notre coopération sous-régionale, c'est justement ce comité d'état-major opérationnel commun que nous appelons le CEMOC.
And one of the responses that we have initiated in the context of our sub-regional cooperation is CEMOC, what we call our Interstate Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Mais évidemment, malheureusement, comme vous le savez certainement, le CEMOC n'est pas opérationnel, mais le concept en est vraiment bon et pour qu'il soit effectivement opérationnel et efficace, certainement que certains des États membres doivent un peu réviser des doctrines qui sont adossées à des lois pour que justement l'opérationnalisation des forces communes soit possible.
And unfortunately, CEMOC has not yet become operational. I think it's a very good concept, but to be truly effective and operational, some of the member states need to revise their doctrines that are attached to their laws so that we can truly have this joint operational force.
Nous avons surtout, et ça c'est très important, ce que nous appelons l'UFL, l'unité de fusion et de liaison, qui est une structure qui centralise tous les renseignements. Cette structure est basée à Alger. Elle est composée de représentants des services de renseignement de nos différents pays. Elle recueille les informations qu'elle envoie aux services des pays en question et elle joue un certain rôle aujourd'hui dans le renseignement qui procure ou qui contribue en tout cas à procurer une part de sécurité pour la région.
And another particularly important initiative is what we call the UFL, the Unity for Fusion and Liaison, which is a centralized structure for all the intelligence services of these countries, and it has its basis in Alger. And representatives of the various intel services in these countries gather intelligence, distribute it to the countries that are involved, and this plays a great role in providing intelligence and helping to strengthen security in the region.
Là, je parlais des infrastructures routières à bâtir. Il y a la route, c'est tout ce qui reste de la transsaharienne, avec sur le tronçon entre la frontière de l'Algérie et la ville d'Arlit au Niger. Mais il faut aller au-delà. Nous concevons désormais une route Kidal-Arlit, une route Kidal-Tamaranset. Ça, ce sont vraiment les grands projets auxquels il faut penser pour intégrer cette région, pour renforcer sa sécurité et pour promouvoir son développement économique.
And talking about roads, and I mentioned the importance of infrastructure and building more roads, and as you pointed out, the Trans-Sahara Highway, and as we're finalizing the branch from Algeria to Niger, we need to also envision more. We can have a section that goes from Kidal to Tamarasat, for example. So this is something that needs to be prioritized to help strengthen security and promote economic development.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. And that, I think, is a segue into the last topic that I will raise, which is if you could give us your thoughts on the situation with Boko Haram and what that entails in terms of both security, infrastructure, and relations between and among persons. Thank you.
Oui, le phénomène Boko Haram sévit dans le nord-est du Nigeria, dans une zone qui est vraiment imbriquée dans notre territoire à nous, du Niger.
The Boko Haram phenomenon is a phenomenon that is especially seen in the eastern part of Nigeria, in a zone that has close ties with our country, Niger.
Boko Haram est une organisation terroriste qui se réclame de l'islam et c'est une organisation qui participe de la mouvance radicale de l'islamisme tel que aujourd'hui il s'est développé depuis Osama Bin Laden.
Boko Haram is a terrorist organization that claims to be Islamic, that is part of the organizations, it's an organization that's part of the radical Islamic movement that has been developed since the days of Osama bin Laden.
Elle est née, curieusement, dans une zone où on aurait laquelle on aurait pensé le moins, le nord-est du Nigeria, on se serait attendu dans l'affiliation de quelques mouvements qui ont fait éruption au Nigeria à ce qu'un tel phénomène, s'il devait naître, naisse plus à l'ouest et plus au sud, c'est-à-dire qu'il naisse à Kano, qu'il naisse à Kaduna, qu'il naisse même à la limite à Sokoto, mais surtout à Kano. Plutôt que de naître là, il naît dans une zone assez excentrée et plutôt marginale et pas très peuplée du Nigeria.
And curiously enough, this organization was developed in a region that you would have least expected in the eastern part of Nigeria. It was an affiliation of several different movements that erupted in Nigeria, and rather than being born in an area such as Kaduna, Sokoto, Kano, regions that you might have expected, it was actually born out of a region that's a very marginalized zone and a very sparsely populated area.
J'ai des difficultés, pour être honnête, à comprendre que l'armée nigérienne ne soit pas venue à bout de cette organisation en dépit des moyens importants pourtant qu'elle mobilise.
And to be honest, I have a hard time understanding why the Nigerian army has not really dealt with this issue, this group, despite the enormous resources at their disposal.
Ces derniers mois, l'armée nigérienne a porté des coups sérieux contre cette organisation.
More recently, we did see the Nigerian army launch some rather wide-scale attacks against this organization.
Ce qui leur a imposé un mode opératoire différent de celui par lequel ils avaient commencé.
Which forced this group to change their modus operandi.
Leur modus operandi, à un moment donné, a été d'utiliser des bombes portées par des kamikazes. C'est ça qu'ils avaient fait, surtout à Abuja, contre le siège de l'ONU, contre un certain nombre de cibles de postes de commissariat de police.
Initially, their modus operandi consisted in conducting suicide bombing attacks. That's what they did in Abuja against the UN headquarters and against other targets such as some of the police stations.
Ils ont à un moment donné privilégié les attaques dans les grandes villes qui ne sont pas celles de leur naissance, à Kano et ailleurs.
And for a certain time, they were focusing more on attacks in major cities, cities where they didn't have such a presence, such as Kano and other places.
Mais de plus en plus, nous constatons qu'ils ne sont plus à mesure d'avoir des gens qui peuvent se donner des vocations périlleuses comme ça.
But we're seeing that more and more they're not able to find as many people who are willing to conduct these types of missions.
Et aujourd'hui, ce qu'ils font, c'est de tirer sur des écoles, sur des enfants et de provoquer des morts en masse tout en s'économisant eux-mêmes.
So now more and more we're seeing that they're targeting schools, firing on schools and children and causing mass deaths without involving so many of their own members.
Lorsqu'ils utilisent une bombe, elle n'est plus portée par un kamikaze, ils la laissent et puis ils l'activent de loin, elle explose, elle fait beaucoup de dégâts.
So when they have a bombing now, they don't do it by a suicide bomber, but rather it's a bomb that's activated from a distance and they set it off and aren't involved directly.
Et ce qui est intéressant, c'est qu'hier, ils ont eu un accrochage avec l'armée camerounaise. Le gouvernement du Nigeria se plaint de plus en plus de ce que certains États ne contrôlent pas tout à fait leurs frontières et que les gens de Boko Haram trouvent refuge dans ces pays en question.
And it's interesting to note that recently there was a clash with the Cameroonian army. The Nigerian government was complaining that some of these neighboring countries are not controlling their borders sufficiently and that this is becoming a place of refuge for Boko Haram.
Je pense que c'est une organisation qui peut être détruite par le gouvernement du Nigeria. J'ai comme l'impression qu'ils sont sur cette voie.
I think organization that could be destroyed by the Nigerian government, and I think that they are well on this path.
Même si il faut avouer que le gouvernement, le Nigeria est un pays très complexe.
Even though we have to look at the fact that Nigeria is a very complicated country.
Et beaucoup de facteurs peuvent interférer aussi pour donner lieu à des situations qui sortent un peu de l'intelligence qu'on peut avoir du phénomène tel que je viens de le décrire.
And there are many factors that come into play and intervene with these various situations, such as intelligence gathering for the phenomena that I just described, for example.
Madame, voilà ma réponse et je ne suis pas sûr qu'elle vous ait fait vraiment avancer.
That's my answer. I'm not sure it really, let us get much farther. But,
Well, it did. It was very, very helpful. Thank you very much. We have reached the conclusion of our program, and I cannot begin the thanks for this. In fact, I think I should go here. Mr. Minister, you have really launched us in a way that is substantive, that's optimistic, and filled with grace and candor. Suleiman Young, we thank you for your provocative remarks and giving us the historical context. To the National Endowment for Democracy, Carl Gershman, Dave Peterson, Kamisa Kamara. Kamisa just this moment came into the room. Just thanking the NED and thanking you for the inspiration for beginning this Sahel Strategy Forum and for organizing this and for hosting this launch. Thank the ambassadors who have come to represent the Sahel and the African Diplomatic Corps. Thank you, Ambassador Grant. Thank you, Ambassador Steve. Thank you, Ambassador Yang. Because this has been an extraordinary opportunity to hear from the person who is in the center of making the Sahel a more democratic, more robust, and more resilient region. You know, we're thinking about Ukraine, we're thinking about Syria, but nothing is more important for long-term humanity than to see progress in the Sahel. And Minister Fazmi, if every minister in the Sahel had the expertise and the strategic thinking that you have given to us today, then we would see lightning speed progress in the Sahel. And you are here surrounded by persons who have those same characteristics among the ambassadors that are here. This audience is a group of people of civil society, the private sector, diaspora, which I know is in your portfolio, that cares about the Sahel, that cares about the countries both bilaterally and as a region. We applaud you, we applaud the Sahel, we applaud each of the persons who's here today because you leave here with clear knowledge that you can support the Sahel, you can support civil society, and that together we go forward to make this truly a better world. So thank you all very, very much. Thank you for coming and have a good afternoon.